Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and I know, I'm super late, and I have this monstrosity right here. Y'all, the most has been going on, and I have to stop letting stuff affect me, y'all. This is a pimple that came up. I had one right here last week and one right here towards the end of last week. Both of those are gone now, but this one emerged like yesterday and it was hurting really, really bad. I popped it, and I think I actually went about cleaning it properly, and so I shouldn't have a mark or anything after it's done completely healing. So yeah, y'all, the most is going on in my life. Oh, I already did that. But anyway, y'all, this is last week's episode of Queen Sugar. So I know I'm late, so I'm sorry. I apologize in advance for that. But y'all, I only had half of my notes done, and I had actually seen the whole episode not long after it aired. Y'all, it's just so much been going on. Y'all, I'm gonna have to get on top of some stuff because too much been going on to where I'm getting behind on stuff. I'm like 2 episodes behind on Ambitions. I'm about to watch the last episode of Queen Sugar. I think there's like 1 or 2 more shows. And I do have another thoughts video that I want to do. But yeah, y'all. Anyway, this is Queen Sugar from last week. So it started out with Nova still hanging out with her old professor, I didn't want to say her name wrong, Dr. Laurent. And I mean, I tried to be here for it, but even before it ended, I was getting some weird vibes about the situation. And I mean, I just live for the person who was playing her, who, you know, of course, we all know, Cree Summer. She's an amazing actress. I love her. I don't think I've ever really seen her play a role like this before. So I'm kind of torn. But anyway, y'all, so Nova gets a phone call. She's very excited, and since she and Dr. Laurent are still in the same room, doing the most with one another in the hotel or wherever they laid up at, she overhears her excitement, and so she's like, what? And so she tells her that she's been shortlisted for a National Book Award, and that and then basically she was like, well, you don't need an award to, you know, validate how important you are or for any recognition and all that other stuff. And she's like, I already know that. And she, you know, made a point to tell her that she's worthy, which again, that's something that she very much so knows. So there's no reason for her to even tell that to her. But I mean, I get wanting to encourage somebody. So I was just like, okay, you didn't really have to say that, but all right. Y'all, Blue is at the house. He didn't go to school. The news of Ralph Angel not being his father, it really took a toll on him, especially hearing it from another child at school and everybody knowing all this stuff is going on throughout the parish now. And Darla asked him had he contacted a counselor, and he was like, no, not yet. And you know, she was like, well, I think I should take him to school so he can go a little bit. And he was like, no, I think he should just stay the whole day at the house. And so, you know, after he said that he hadn't contacted the counselor yet, and she was like, well, you know, we need to go ahead and get the ball rolling. And this person said that they are willing to come to the house. So that's what I'm talking about, mobile counselor. That's what I'm talking about. If you need to be able to do that, especially some people don't want to leave the house. A lot of people have gone through very traumatic things, and it's hard for them to even face the world, let alone one person who they really don't know at all. So it's great. This person is going to eventually come out to the house. So he's going to go on ahead and make the appointment. The person will come out later on. So Charlie has decided that she's going to run for office, and you know, something dealing with the city council, because she's noticing that a lot of stuff is not going as it should. You already know what's going on with the people who she's supposed to be working with behind the scenes. What is it, the Boudreaux? Am I saying it right? Because sometimes I feel like I'm talking about some other people. But anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about. I think it is the Boudreaux. But anyway, since the son who she was kind of supposed to be working with underhandedly and still kind of against the family, his family has in turn made him the one who's going to be the person who's going to bring their family even more so into the forefront with everything that they're trying to put out there, with that highway, getting on the land, doing all the stuff with the milling. Like, they trying to do everything. They're trying to take over everything. Kind of like the state that I live in. The person who is, like the best of friends with Trump, he, is buying up everything. His family is buying up everything. His namesake, they have set up here and named a highway after him. They're doing the most, and he's Trump's best buddy. Y'all should be able to infer who I'm talking about. It's a very short list of people, but this person has a whole lot of money. Every time you look up, this person's buying up everything. I'm not here for it. I ain't got time. But anyway, yeah, so like I was saying, Charlie is running for office, and she's met up with some of the people in the community, and her son came out as well. And this woman came from out of nowhere while she was in the middle of talking to people. And, Prosper realized who she was, and, he got a little spark in him. And I was like, what's going on here? Is this an ex, or, what is this about? He sat up there and introduced her and all that. Her name was like Genevieve, and I was like, oh, you don't went all Prosper? Like, you could tell he was, here for her. And she came over from a whole nother neighboring parish. I think she was from St. Thomas or somewhere. And so she was like, I already heard about your efforts and I'm here for it. So Charlie was looking like, what you mean you heard about these things? I haven't even officially announced that I'm running. And she was like, we know things, and just know that we behind you. So everybody is here for her, and they're hoping that her efforts will not go in vain. So yeah, she was like, I'm really ready to help. So she's, helping with flyers and all the other stuff. And I'm like, yes, you better do that. So anyway, y'all, Vi and Hollywood are having very, very bad trouble in the bedroom. Vi has been having moments where she's not in the mood at all for sex. And I don't know if y'all have realized it or not, but even though Vi is older, and that is a misconception that a lot of people have, they feel like, oh, you older, you don't care about all this other stuff. Vi is usually the more aggressive of the two of them. They both live for sex, but she is more hungry and hungers for it, and has a more of an insatiable appetite for sex than her husband does. And so it's gotten to the point where she don't even want to have sex. And her husband is even noticing. And it's just to the point where she, eventually come to the bed late, and he just be looking like, okay, we ain't gonna have sex tonight again. All right. That's kind of like how you be looking. And I just be like, oh gosh, y'all. So anyway, Nova has these interviews that she's doing, and people are always asking her, how does her family feel about the book? And y'all, Professor Laurent, excuse me, she done rolled up. Every time Nova goes anywhere, she's with her. And so she's talking, and, of course, it's a hard subject. It's very hard. She didn't let anybody know all of this information was going to be out there. So she's trying to answer the best way she can. Professor Laurent comes out of nowhere answering stuff, and I'm just like, girl, didn't nobody ask you nothing? Your name is not Nova Bordelon. Who are you? But anyway, y'all, it gets to the point where the interviewer is in the middle of talking to Nova, and she ends up getting blindsided because he brings up the fact that Charlie is running for city council. And so she kind of trying to keep her composure because he done threw her all the way off. And like I said before, old girl done bust up, and she is given this manufactured response. And I'm just like, girl, can go somewhere and sit down. But I mean, in a way, I'm kind of like, well, you kind of saved her a little bit, because I don't know what she would have came up off the cuff with that bit of information, because that was a little bit too much, because I know I would have been taken aback. So anyway, the counselor ended up coming to the house and was asking Blue what happened, and it got to the point where she noticed his connection to his doll. What's the doll's name? Kenya, I think. And, she's one of those, I feel as though she's one of those great examples of what a great social worker should be, and definitely a great counselor. She noticed his connection to the doll, and, she was like, well, maybe Kenya can tell us what happened, because he wasn't saying anything at first. And so he was like, well, Kenya said that this is what happened, all this other stuff, y'all. So he rehashed what happened at the school, where the child rolled up on him and said that his daddy ain't his daddy and all this other stuff, and asked him how does he feel about it. And of course, as a typical child's response, he said that he's sad and all this other stuff. But yeah, they had a pretty decent counseling session, considering, because I thought Blue was going to be completely shut down and not really wanting to talk to her, or he might have started speaking but wouldn't have wanted to talk to her anymore. But it went pretty well, and then they let him go in and go to the bathroom, go take a little play break, and the counselor talked to them one-on-one, and that seemed to go well. So hopefully that will continue, because I really do feel as though counseling is needed in a lot of these families. And a lot of people to this day have been a child, they've gone through things, they've grown up, and they're still dealing with stuff internally, and they need to release it. And they haven't, because they have this stigma that, oh, well, we don't need counseling, I don't need therapy. And you do. There's nothing wrong with it. So anyway, y'all, moving right along. Vi ended up calling her doctor, and she was letting her know that she hasn't been herself lately. And so she was like, well, has anything happened out of the ordinary, or whatever, something along those lines lately. And so of course, her ex popping up and all this other stuff. And she was like, I'm not myself, and I haven't been with my husband, and I'm not like that. I'm normally with it. So, she now knows the connection, and as to why, as far as why she has been acting the way she has. So somehow she's going to have to face it so that she can get over it, because it's something that is blocking her. I've had that happen to me before, and before counseling, there were things that weren't connecting for me. And I don't know if this would be TMI for anybody, but I'm not trying to make it that. But there have been times where like the slightest touch would just not necessarily gross me out, but it'll just make me feel like almost borderline stranger danger. And it would be from someone who I care about. And it wasn't like anything in a sexual nature or anything. Or it's like it's too sensitive to my touch. And a lot of this stuff is because of things that has happened to me. There are a lot of things that happened to me because of my molestation that I don't like to happen to me, or I feel as though you have to almost not touch me at all for me to give you a better reaction, instead of me snatching away or tensing up, because that's just how I have been. So yeah, a lot of people don't understand that some of the way that they react to things is because of pent-up tension and things that you have never released because of what you've gone through. So yeah, y'all. I just had to throw that in there, because that is a very much so real connection, and I just don't want anybody to see that scene and then think, oh, well, that's not real. If I'm in the mood, I'm in the mood, then I ain't got to do all that to be in the mood. And it's like, it can be a process. Like if you're going through something, or something like that has happened, or somebody has resurfaced, it can throw you all the way off your game, no matter how much you like sex or whatever your situation is at the time, because it's not always a sexual situation that allows that type of reaction. So anyway, y'all, moving forward. Nova is still with Professor Laurent, and so she was talking to her, and she ended up saying something about, I think she asked something about the siblings' reaction, or her family's reaction to the book and all the other stuff. And she calls them biological accidents. That's what Nova's professor calls family members and stuff like that. And she was like, I've always hated when you say that, because she ain't here for all that. She ain't here for all the family stuff like that. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you, girl? Stop. So anyway, y'all, Micah is at the house, and his girlfriend Kiki dropped by to drop something off to him, and Kiki is over everything. She ain't here for none of that. And she was just like, yeah, so I'm gonna go now. And so he was, like, hold on, wait a minute, I need to talk to you for a little while. And he tried to be like, well, I'm gonna go and see old boy that got locked up. And so she was like, well, I can't go. I'm not a family member or anybody authorized. And he was like, well, I got authorization. They checked me out. I got cleared and I'm going to go see him, whatever, whatever. So she was like, well, that's good for you. That's good. He needs somebody, a familiar face and all the other good stuff. That's fine. Cool. And of course, he wants to bring up, talking about the two of them. And she was just like, look, I don't want to talk about nothing right now. I don't even want to deal with nothing right now. I just can't. So, she was like, I don't want to. Like, she got to the point where she was just like, I don't even want to. So whatever, hesitations that she is having at this moment, she ain't trying to talk to him about nothing. She ain't here for nothing right now coming from him. And so she was like, today ain't the day. It ain't the time. We ain't seeing eye to eye right now. I don't really want to talk to you like that. So anyway, y'all excuse my gray hairs. They doing the most. So Micah, Charlie, and her man meet up at this event, and it's all of these Spanish-speaking people. They're there, and she's trying to tap into a community that she hasn't been around like that before, and it might be a community that nobody's really been around and they genuinely don't care about. So her man suggested that because he, is of that persuasion. And y'all, she tried to roll up on the pastor and introduce herself and all that stuff. And he was like, I already know who you are, Charlie Bordelon. And she was like, what? Wait, you know me? And so he was like, anybody who's, whatever, we know you. We know you. So anyway, at first he wasn't trying to hear nothing. She was talking about, he was like, I already know why you here. I ain't here for it. And don't nobody be coming around unless they want something. And I don't want to hear all that. Everybody promise all this stuff, but don't nothing happen. You ain't gonna do nothing. Everybody, it's all talk and no action. I ain't here for it. So, she kind of had to go ahead and dismiss herself a little bit. But then, even though she was kind of like, I'm going to prove myself. But he ain't trying to hear it right now, y'all. So anyway, Nova went to this event and her previous professor tried it, y'all. So they at this event. Nova went to go get like some refreshments. This heifer rolled up and she was like, oh, the woman was like, oh, I enjoyed that book, talking about Nova's book. Or what she was talking, I don't know if she was talking about the professor's book or Nova's book. I think she was talking about Nova's book because she's acting as if she's talking on behalf of Nova. And so she was like, yes, it was amazing. Y'all, she goes on. The woman was like, you know what? I want to bring her on to have her to write certain things. It's like a big project they wanted to bring her on. And she specified it would be for new emerging writers. She was like, oh, I don't know if Nova would be able to handle something like that. I would be able to do that. And I was just like, girl, no, you didn't. Why are you trying to take somebody's business? Like, why are you trying to take money out of somebody's pocket? Like, I was just like, girl, you gotta go, like, off rip. I ain't got time. You a snake in the grass. Lies. You gotta go. Y'all, so Nova overheard the situation. And so when the conversation was over, y'all, it was funny because you could tell that the woman that didn't want nothing to do with Professor Laurent. And so she was kind of like staring off into space like, because wasn't nobody here for you, girl. Didn't nobody send for you. Didn't nobody care. Like, if she would have wanted you, she would have asked for you, despite the fact that you've been out here doing all this for 20-some years. Oh, well, that ain't what was asked of you. They was trying to figure out what you was going to do with your connection to Nova to get her into the door to do this thing for them. Y'all, Nova was like, oh, so what's all this about? Y'all, she gonna try to lie, try to make it seem like it wasn't all about nothing. And I was just like, girl, just stop. Anyway, Charlie and her boo are together still at that event, and y'all, eventually they have their moments. They're not drinking, I don't think. Anyway, they were dancing is what I was trying to say. They were dancing, enjoying themselves, and eventually later on they went off somewhere and had some sex. And I was like, oh, okay, y'all go and do what y'all doing. Okay, cool. And you know, she is really, really into him because she's saying that this is the first time that she can remember in such a long time that she's been with somebody, that she's been with a man who hasn't been trying to take from her, especially someone who's adding to her instead of trying to take from her. I was like, okay, then that's what I'm talking about. I know that's right. Because sometimes these men be out here doing the most, and some of these heifers too. But anyway, Nova ended up going to this bar. It was either an event that was happening at her hotel or at some other hotel. But anyway, it was an outside bar. And she went up there and he was like, you know, what would you like to drink? And she was like, anything. It just needs to, you know, be strong. And the drink ended up being good. And she was about to go ahead and walk off and mind her business. And so he said something. He was like, I'm Terrence. And so she did that typical thing that some of us women do where you kind of be like conflicted because you be like, do I really want to turn around and engage in any type of conversation with this person, or should I just walk off and just be like, I ain't got time, bye. So since she's in her feelings because of the things that have been going on with her raggedy ex-professor, old professor, whatever, she indulged him. He seems decent and he was making her smile. I hadn't seen her smile like that in a while, like since the professor showed up after after they had sex or whatever. It just seemed like all that spark went away because she started seeing what her true colors were or whatever, right? Okay. So he was like, you know, whatever your situation is, for however long you're gonna be here, I know that there's gonna be this little shindig going on, like up the street or something like that, and around this time. So if you want to come, you can pop up and we can, you know, hang out or whatever. And, you know, we ain't got to talk about that person unless you want to talk about them or whatever, but you can get your mind off of that because all these other things are going to be going on. It's going to be some amazing ambiance. So, yeah, you know, she was like, well, I don't know, I might show up, whatever, y'all. So, anyway, it was just a lot. But, yeah, so Nova ended up showing back up to her hotel room. And while she was at the bar, you know, she actually was supposed to be out at this lunch meeting that her old professor set up. And so old girl, you know, got in her feelings. And she is in the hotel room packing up her bags and she in her feelings. And she was like, you missed our lunch. And she was like, your lunch. I was like, no, but no. But anyway, you know, they went back and forth and she was just like, nah, what you're not finna do is keep exploiting me. So yeah, it got to the point where she was just like, look, basically got tired of her exploiting her, and she was like, wow, I can't believe this, but you know, this is a sad day. I've outgrown you. And you know, this heifer made like one last desperate plea of some sort to be like, there was nobody else after you. There were others, but I could never go there with anybody else. And I was just like, okay. And Nova was like, you know, you were my first for several things, but you know, we got to be done all the way. And oh, this heifer done started crying. I was like, oh gosh, this heifer done cried and everything. I cannot. Anyway, Charlie ended up rolling up on the pastor. And I guess this was the next morning, and himself and other people were cleaning up from the previous festivities, or they were setting up for something else, but I think they were cleaning up. But anyway, they were taking stuff down or whatever. And so she was like, you know, I had time to think about what you said to me last night, and, you know, you're right. And she basically is dead set on proving to him that she's just not one of those people that is gonna roll up when election time comes and say some sweet nothings in their ear and then do nothing when they actually win. So anyway, Prosper and the old friend are at the little headquarters. I was about to say, what's the word? Please don't let me mess it up. At the little campaign headquarters, and Nova is looking at her little posters and stuff with her face and asking her, boo, you know, what does he think about it and all this other stuff. So everybody, you know, doing a little stuff they supposed to do. And I mean, Prosper and Genevieve are over there stuffing letters and all this other stuff. Y'all, next thing we know, a brick gets thrown through the window. And so not Nova. Charlie's like, is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? Y'all, meanwhile, she the only one who need to be asking, is she herself okay? Because she just sat up here and got cut in the neck and they didn't realize her man had to tell her, you're bleeding. She was like, what? Like, she was in so much shock and so much adrenaline was racing. She didn't even know what was going on. She holding her neck and he had to, hold a rag on her neck, and then she ended up holding it, and y'all, it was a lot. But yeah, then they threw a brick through the window, and so she, in that moment, was kind of like, well, maybe I need to back off. And he was like, no, this is exactly why you need to run and win this. Y'all, so anyway, Nova ended up calling Charlie and leaving a message, because as we know, ain't nobody returning no phone calls or picking up their phone for Nova right about now. So she leaving a message. I was like, hey, Charlie, hope everything's going great with you. Congratulations on running. And all that other stuff. And, eventually she was like, tell Micah I said, hey, and, I love him. I love you, all this other stuff. And left that message. And the last scene was of actually Charlie officially stating that she's running for city council. Everybody was there but Nova as far as family is concerned. And it was a really great moment. And I was just like, okay, we'll see. And she actually does sound like somebody that's running for something. So hopefully, if she's able to win it, I'm hoping that it's not going to be the typical situation where you say one thing, you do something else once you get in there. Anyway, I'll be back a little bit later on with the episode that just aired. So, like I said, y'all, I'm very, very sorry that this is a late post. So I hope y'all forgive me. Anyway, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.